Hello, 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 everybody jumping in for our final session. Well done for joining me today. I'm so excited. Wrapping things up, got some extra bonus things I'm going to teach you. In the meantime, oh, hi, Caroline. In the meantime, please put in the chat. Where's the chat? There's the chat. Please put what your biggest takeaways, breakthroughs, learnings, and questions, because today I want to answer questions about anything that we've learned so far or anything about the program that's coming up. And if anybody wants to unmute themselves and get a little bit of coaching, if anyone feels brave to do that, I can do a little bit of that as well. So make sure you put in the drop-down menu, put it to everyone so everyone can see your message. Please put any questions you have. Any thoughts, reflections, things you've learned, breakthroughs, takeaways, all of that stuff. And we'll get started in just a second. And I'm gonna just announce a couple of winners and tell you about the prize for doing your homework as well. So yesterday, lots of people jumped into the program, and I was giving away to the first 3 people who joined yesterday. They got a water bottle, and my team will be reaching out to get addresses. That goes to Jennifer, Michelle, and Courtney. I'm not going to say the last names, but if you are Jennifer, Michelle, or Courtney, it's possible you're going to have one of these coming your way. Today's prize is the Soberful t-shirt. So the first 3 people who jump into the Soberful program, and Caroline will put the link there. If you jump into the Sobriety Habit program, I'm going to send you an exclusive Soberful t-shirt. So my team will reach out and find out what size you need for the first 3 people to join today. Now, the prize for doing your homework, all the people who posted their homework questions, I'm going to send you a bunch of books. I'm going to send you Atomic Habits. I'm going to send you my book. I'm going to send you my favorite personal development books. I'm going to send you The Big Leap. I'm going to send you a book on mindset, and I'm going to send you some Soberful swag as well. So the person who for doing your homework, that will be coming to, we'll announce that probably early next week. So lots and lots of prizes. Oh, well done. Thank you for buying the book. If you have bought the book, may I ask, would you mind ever so much leaving a review? Even if it's just a couple of words, it really, really, really helps on Amazon. I'd be very grateful if you have bought the book to just quickly leave a review. It helps enormously with kind of getting the book noticed and all that kind of stuff. Okay, make sure you put your questions, thoughts. If anybody wants to put their hand up and get some coaching, I can unmute you. LH has said, change in perception, reframing big time, need help with family events, social settings, doing well at home. Yeah, Ali's saying that spouse and family social events are the hardest as well. Love the change of identity. I'm living alcohol free. Yeah, really, really important. Oh, Carrie celebrating 1 year. Well done, Carrie. Yay. Boredom factor. You know, I actually mentioned that in my book because it is important. Having fun, I want to say having fun is really, really important. It's not a frivolous thing. What is life without fun, right? I mean, it's really important. So what I want to say, Phyllis, that is all perception. So the biggest obstacle to getting sober is the belief, the perception that alcohol and drinking is the best way to have fun. So when we stop drinking, even though intellectually we know alcohol's bad for us, emotionally we will feel grief about letting go of this substance, and we will feel that we are missing out, and we will certainly feel that we're never going to have fun again. So there is a period of time between stopping drinking and leaving the land of fun, excitement, belonging, connection that we think alcohol takes us to, which often is not always the case, or there's a very high price. And there's a period of time between getting to the land of fun, excitement, belonging, connection, relaxing and rewarding yourselves sober. And that period of time in between is a bit weird, and sometimes it will feel boring. I shared the story of being 27 years old and being home on a Saturday night, scrubbing my apartment because I didn't have anything else to do, and everyone else on the whole entire planet was going out and having the best fun on Saturday night except for me. And it's not like that. It changes. So I remember being maybe 18 months sober or so. I was going out by then, doing things, and I remember going to a big concert in London with some friends of mine, and it was a big deal, and tickets and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of them were from New Zealand, and Kiwis are great because when they travel and they do everything, because they don't get a whole lot of artists come to New Zealand. So they were always going to London doing things, and I would tag along sometimes. And I remember being at this one big concert in London, I think it was at Wembley Arena. And I just had this moment where I was right there, the band was on, they were playing, and they're at the bar or they're lining up for the toilet. And they missed so many of the big songs. And this thing happened where I was like, I'm having more fun than you are. And that will happen. That's another critical threshold where you begin to have all of these experiences and you realize that was fun. I really enjoyed that. I love dancing. I was going out in my late 20s to nightclubs with my friends dancing. And about midnight, I'd be done because people getting silly drunk, and drunk people are very boring. I danced, I flirted, had a good time, went home, got up early Sunday, exercised, had a lovely weekend. I was having more fun than they were. So it's a process, Phyllis, and hopefully that answers that for you. Thank you, Annabelle, for buying the book. And please leave a review. Cindy, I've been working on living an alcohol-free life for the past few years, but I always trip up after about 3 months. I'm on day 96, but finding no joy in this process. I'm working on emotional sobriety, but it seems like I'm stuck trying to trust the process and be patient. When you say, Cindy, that you are working on emotional sobriety, what are you doing specifically? And are you doing it on your own? Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, thank you. Elizabeth, what are you having a hard time with? Put it in the chat and let me know, see if I can help. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's available on other places from Amazon. Review it wherever. The mindset book that the winner of doing the homework is going to be, it's called Mindset by Carol Dweck. Lucy's saying she's doing well, but sober holidays have been a struggle. Impatient to feel the differences in my life without alcohol is always very difficult. Why do I feel so tired when I'm sober? How long have you been sober for, Sarah? Here's the other thing that's really important to know, everyone. It takes about a year for our bodies to kind of get back to normal. So if you've all been drinking for however many years, you're not going to feel, it's not 15 days. It takes a year. So remember I said this, can't remember what day, but I said this, like when you stop drinking, after about 30 days, you're going to feel better. Like that toxic substance, you're not going to be hungover, you're hopefully going to be sleeping better. You're going to feel better, but it really takes a year for our brain chemistry, the serotonin levels, the dopamine, the feel-good chemicals to all regulate themselves. It takes our gut bacteria, our energy, our mood, being able to sleep, eating. It takes about a year. Please understand, alcohol is a level 1 carcinogen. It is a highly toxic chemical. It's a central nervous system depressant that I think nearly everyone here has been putting in their bodies for several years, if not decades. So it takes a year for our bodies to just get back to homeostasis. Steve, for me, alcohol is not about having fun. It's about neutralizing anger and tension. In those rare cases when I have fun, I don't use alcohol at all. Yeah. And so you're using alcohol, Stephen, to manage your emotional life. We outsource our emotional well-being to alcohol. So what's key for you is learning how to deal with your emotions. That is key. Cindy, I've been meditating, journaling, reading. Yes, I've been in a program and a community. What's the program and what are you? I think meditating and journaling and reading are all good, but reading is just information. Meditating is good for quietening the mind. Journaling, like I would get even more granular than that, even more specific than that. Thank you. Resentments. Okay, let's get started in some of the content I want to talk about today in our final session. So the first thing I want to do, I write this training and I design it. Then as I go along, I think, oh, I'm going to add in these extra bits at the last minute. And that's what I'm going to do today. Who here has heard of Dr. Gabor Mate? He is wonderful. He really does some wonderful work around trauma. And he talks about trauma being the root of addiction. And he is correct about that. And I have lots of clients that come to me and say, you know, I don't really think I had a trauma. Like my childhood was pretty good. My parents were pretty good. Nobody was perfect. But I can't really think of a thing. So, you know, I certainly have clients who have trauma in their past, childhood trauma, and you can see the link there, right? You can see the link why somebody would want to find an anesthetic for their internal pain. But I have lots of clients who come to me and say, I don't know, I just really can't think anything. So I want to explain what he means by that and what the root cause of an alcohol problem is, of what addiction is. We have, as children, two primary needs that have to be met. The first one is attachment. Now, we have some understanding about that, like infants, small children, older children, actually, even we need attachment all through our lives, but we particularly need it when we're very small, right? Attachment from the primary caregiver, some being held, being nurtured, people responding to our emotional needs. As a culture, we more or less understand that. Now, I would argue that we're still not great at accommodating families to provide that essential attachment, but that's a whole other story. So we have the primary need for attachment to be able to grow into healthy, functioning adults. We also, the second need that we have is for authenticity. And what happens is, in a lot of families, we compromise our needs for authenticity to meet our attachment needs in families and in communities. So an example of that would be, say, for example, if you were gay and you grew up in a family that wasn't going to be accepted, and we want to be in a family, you know, there's lots of good things in that family and we feel loved, but we just know that that wouldn't be understood. So that's an authentic part of ourselves that we would bury in order to stay attached to our primary caregivers. And this is very primal. Like it's just in our DNA, the need to primarily attach to our primal caregivers. So for me, what that looked like is my family don't do feelings and emotions. They can't handle them, and it really scares them. So my feelings and emotions were shut down with lots of different messages. Don't upset yourself, is what I was told by my mother-in-law. Don't upset yourself. And what they're actually communicating is, don't be upset. I can't handle it. Stop. So I had all of these big feelings and emotions that I was like, oh, just push them down, because they were not accepted in my family. I just knew that. I remember my mum saying to me, because my granddad died before I was born, don't ask Nanny. That's what I called my grandmother. Don't ask Nanny about granddad. Don't speak about it, because it's upsetting. We don't talk about upsetting things. So I had to who else had to push down feelings and emotions and parts of themselves in their family of origin, because they knew they wouldn't be tolerated or accepted. So we have two primary needs. Let me recap. We have the needs for attachment and the needs for authenticity. And if we don't get our attachment needs met, that's traumatizing. And if we don't meet our needs for authenticity, that is also traumatizing. Therefore, trauma is the root of all addiction. Can everybody see that in themselves? And if you can't, let me tell you, give me an hour and I would find it. Yeah. I'm just looking at some of the comments. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So so sobriety is just the journey back to your authentic self. So a lot of the reasons why you drink is because you have left yourself by degrees, and alcohol creates a distraction and numbs the pain of that. Is that making sense to people? Is that kind of hitting home? So when we have an alcohol problem and we behave in ways that are not in alignment with who we really are, and so we just leave ourselves by degrees, you know, the feelings of shame and guilt and embarrassment and not good enough and all that stuff that gets fudged over. Sobriety is really just the journey back to oneself, back to our authentic self. That's the pillar of growth. The pillar of growth is your authentic self calling you to be your authentic self, whatever that is. And it could be, maybe you're going to cure cancer. Maybe you're just going to grow nice flowers in your garden. Who knows? Who knows what it is? Maybe it's yet to be discovered. But I do know something. Life did not call you to come here and argue with yourself about whether you're going to have a drink today or not. That is not what any of you are here to do. You are here to be to have an authentic journey. And that's, none of that's perfect. It's messy. It's human. But if we don't at least try to be on this authentic journey, we miss our lives. Don't miss your life. That is my profound spiritual message for today. And again, that's also in the book. Am I making sense? Did that make sense? I'm looking at some of the comments now. Oh, thank you, Jen. Not sure which Jen that is. So. Yeah. Yeah, we assumed, I mean, you can, I mean, you don't need to be a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist to see that, you know, childhood trauma of some kind that many children unfortunately experience can be the root of addiction. But the bit that I think is missing for a lot of people is the bit about authenticity and if that need isn't met. So your job, and this is why I've talked about the work, 10% of the work is not drinking, 90% is returning to your authentic self. That's what emotional sobriety is. The loneliness is really hard, Julie. I really sympathize. Yeah. Oh gosh, Katie, I was exactly the same. The first time I drank, and I think it was about 14, it was like, oh, I felt like how I imagined everyone else felt. I felt comfortable again. Oh, and you know what? Annabelle she's saying she's 65 and she'd wish she'd known this when she was younger. Annabelle, what I want to say is it's never too late and you're not too old. Those are limiting beliefs. I have clients in their 70s, and I've had a client in their 80s. Oh, fabulous. Fabulous they are. Because what you have is a lot of potential wisdom. That is the difference in sobriety, is we can turn your past into wisdom. Nothing is, we can't, haven't got a time machine. We can't go back and change it, but we can transform it into wisdom. So I'm going to recap just a couple of points, and then I'm going to answer some questions. Jen, I'm going to answer your question. Jen K put a question in. So these are the most important things that I want you to take away. You don't need a toolbox. You need a practice. If you're seeing anybody out there saying sobriety toolbox, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm just going to say that, because there's a lot of people online selling programs who don't know what they're talking about. You don't need a toolbox. You're not a car. You need a personal development practice. Everybody on the planet needs a personal development practice. The development of oneself. All that is revealing ourselves to ourselves. And that is a practice that lasts our entire life. I did mine this morning. Here's my book. I just did a little self-reflection to understand how I feel. What's going on with me? And I'm 22 years and 9 months sober or something like that. So this is ongoing. This is not hard. It's not hard work. It requires effort. That's all. It just requires effort. You have put a lot of freaking time, money, and energy into your alcohol problem and your destruction. So we're just moving that and putting it into our recovery. That's what we're doing. It's all perception. Sobriety is just a shift in perception. We see things differently. So we need to work on a practice. This deal is 10% is not drinking alcohol. We need to be sober. Some people need to go to rehab. Some people need medication. Some people need to work with a therapist or a coach. Some people need to go to AA or smart recovery or refuge recovery. There are many different methods to get sober. Then the 90% of the deal, and you'll be missing out on so much if you don't do this, is emotional sobriety, is the revealing of oneself to oneself, the growth, the being able to manage our feelings and emotions. The good news is, with the sobriety habit, we are going to focus on 1% change, just 1%, which you can all do. All of you can do 1%. That's 15 minutes. I'm going to say that all of you spent more than 15 minutes a day on your alcohol problem. You probably spent hours just thinking about drinking or not drinking. Am I correct? So that is the work. We want to build a sobriety habit. Now, keep going until you reach the critical threshold. Everything has a critical threshold. And that is, it's consistency over intensity. We're going to focus on doing things consistently until we reach this critical threshold, and our brain makes the connection. I really like how I feel, and I feel this way because of this stuff that I do. I'm going to keep doing this stuff. That's the critical threshold. Keep going. Consistency is the magic pill. Everybody's looking for a magic pill, right? If only we could take a pill to solve all our problems. Consistency is the magic pill. 1% change over a year adds up significantly. So 1% in the moment doesn't feel like a whole lot, but over a year, it adds up to a 37 times different change. And the same in reverse. If you stop doing stuff by 1% that's good for you, like exercising or whatever it is, over a year, it leads to a significant decline. So we're going to just focus on consistently doing 1%. We want to identify as a sober person, claim the identity of somebody who doesn't drink. We're not trying to stop drinking. That's leaving the back door open. We are somebody who's living in the solution. We are someone who is in long-term recovery. I am somebody, I'm living sober. It doesn't matter. However you frame it, claim the identity. And then claim the identity and act like that person. What would a sober person do next? Call a friend, go to bed early, eat healthily, go to a group call or a meeting, text a sober friend, etc. Claim the identity of a sober person. Focus on the system, not the goal. If your goal is to get sober, you've all done it. Well done. You've all done it for a day, a week, month, a year, whatever. It's not stopping that's the problem. It's staying stopped. So focus on the system that is going to get there. Now, the system that I introduced yesterday was the 5 pillars. It's in here. Movement, connection, balance, process, growth. That is the system that you need. And you need, I'm going to say, you need to have, it's really worth having an expert guide with that. I just want to say, you know, those of you who are thinking of jumping in the program, or those of you on the fence, I know sometimes like some of the fear is like investing the money and is this going to fail? Da, da, da. When I got sober, which was 2000, I've been sober since May 2nd, 2000. I had no money, no friends, no family, nothing. So I went to AA because that's all there was back then. I had no other choice. As soon as I was a bit more on my feet, I did lots of therapy. I did lots of retreats and workshops and bought books and I really, really invested in myself, because I got a certain, I've got a certain way, but then all this stuff was, you know, big issue for me was romantic relationships and sabotaging myself and limiting beliefs and anxiety. And I just needed help with that. So as soon as you're able to invest in yourself, and I know people, they have this kind of fear of failing. Well, if I do that and it doesn't work. So my philosophy is we get sober by putting weight on the sober end. So you come into this free program this week, that's you putting weight on the sober end. Those of you who are joining the Sobriety Habit that starts next week, that's putting weight on the sober end. This is drinking. This end is drinking, sorry, this is alcohol, this end is drinking, and this end is sobriety. And if you put weight on the drinking end, that's the one that's going to embed itself. But if you consistently put weight on the sober end, consistently, eventually gravity will take over and it will embed itself in the earth. So it's not you, everything that you're doing, whether this month you have 8 days where you don't drink, and next month you have 17 days, and the next month you have 23 days, and the next month you have 30, all of that consistently done is putting weight on the sober end. You really need to reframe how you think about failure. There's no such thing about failure. There's only feedback. So what all of us have all the time is opportunities for feedback. What works, what doesn't work, what do I need to do differently, what do I need to fine tune? So the 5 pillars are a system, and whatever program I teach always comes back to the 5 pillars. That's threaded through everything. But to get even more granular, for those of you who are journaling and doing stuff like that, this is my experience of my personal experience, but what I've done with thousands of people at this point is the key work of emotional sobriety is resentments. Resentments shift our perspective of everything. We see everything differently. Limiting beliefs, the story you tell yourself about yourself, fear, the boundaries and balance. Those are the key elements of emotional sobriety, and that's the specific structured journaling that I do. Again, if you journal, awesome. If that works for you, fabulous. I don't love it. I do structured journaling, and I do very specific methods, and that's what I teach in my group coaching programs. But there's, you know, a lot of the stuff is in AA and other resources as well. Okay, let me look at some of the questions here. Okay, Jen, I want to answer your question. Any suggestions on handling sobriety when your spouse still drinks? Some. We entertain people who drink, and therefore there is alcohol in the house. So I want to say, Jen, and this is to everybody, This needs to be your main thing. You can't get sober like sort of, you know, every so often I'll kind of think about it. Being sober needs to be your main thing. This is if you're showing up in front of me, and people don't show up in front of me by accident, then I'm going to say that your drink is probably not fun, and it's not being your friend for a long time. If, you know, sometimes I have people come to in front of me on a call and they're going through, you know, their drinking's awful and it's causing all kinds of damage to their health, their family, their reputation, their integrity, their self-esteem. And then they and ah about making a commitment, even though they've had years of proving that they can't do it on their own, they can't manage it on their own, they need help. So think of it like if you, God forbid, had a serious condition and the doctor said you need to on Mondays come for treatment, you would go. So you need to make this your main thing. So remember, there's that period of time in between stopping and getting into this wonderful land of sober where everything is fun, excitement, and all that kind of stuff, where you may have to say no to things you may not be able to entertain, or you may be able to have, you need to maybe have boundaries. It's very possible to get sober when you have a partner who drinks. There's kind of too much to go into here, but you need to present it that you're doing this for your health and well-being, and ask them for their support, and hopefully they'll say yes, I'll support you. And then you can say, good, I would like to at the moment not have alcohol in the house. It's not a forever thing, it's just a right now thing. If you want to drink, that's fine. I just would you mind for the next few weeks to just do that somewhere else, or not in front of me? And that's about having a boundary. So that's where I would start, Jen, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to look at some more. If you've got questions, this is the time to put them in, or thoughts, or anything you want me to input on. Sarah, I've learned from previous periods of sobriety that I really need to work on a lot of trauma that is incredibly painful and I've buried deep inside, and I've kept the lid on it with alcohol. But as soon as I'm sober, it quickly starts coming to the surface and I'm an emotional wreck. So Sarah, are you trying to get sober on your own? Because that's common. Is, you're right, alcohol keeps a lid on really difficult feelings and emotions. And when we get sober, we just can't keep that stuff inside anymore. And one of the most important things is community. Is don't be alone with that, and get support, professional, as much as you can. Okay. I'm just looking at your comments. Stephen is saying, I feel like I've lived my life for others. I'm not sure what I was looking for, just appreciation, I guess, maybe the desire to be respected. Stephen, I'm going to say all of that comes from childhood conditioning. That's all limiting beliefs about how you need to be in the world to get your needs met. So it's not working for you, and you can change those limiting beliefs. We all have stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. I mean, my story was, I believed I wasn't good enough. And I also believed what other people thought of me was the most important thing. It never occurred to me what I think about myself. So I would twist myself up in knots, trying to get people to like me or approve of me, or I'd try to be pleasing to them. And I would compromise my integrity all the time. And then when I got sober, I realized I sleep in my head at night. I have to show up in the world in a way that means that I can sleep in my head, and I can like myself. That's the journey to sobriety, is the journey back to ourselves. And what that results in is in liking ourselves again. We have to like ourselves. I live in this body, like, I am not perfect, so far from perfect, but I'm all right. And I need to like myself, because it's a horrible way to exist in the world, not liking yourself. And that is what sobriety is all about. Yeah, everybody, it doesn't matter how old you are, what's happened, everyone is capable of growing and changing. I have seen so many everyday miracles, so many everyday transformations. No one here is special and different. I am not special and different. None of this was luck, and I did not show up like this. All I did was very messily and very imperfectly, but consistently do the work that I needed to do. And I got guides and mentors, and I invested in myself because you know what? I was worth it, and I had to save my own life. To deal with trauma, EMDR is very effective, and also EFT, emotional freedom technique. That's one of the things that I use in my individual coaching. By the way, I just want to say about that, because a couple of people messaged me. I do take a very small amount of personal clients. I usually take 2 or 3 a month. That's all. And I have a 4-month coaching program. If anyone is wanting that, I usually have a waiting list, but reach out to me if that is something that you feel would be a better fit for you. I do some individual coaching work as well. EFT would be so helpful to you, Sarah. The tapping, which, by the way, you get if you join before midnight tonight, the program, there's a free, it's like 2 or 3 hours free training video on how to use EFT in sobriety. That would be worth it just for you alone, Sarah. How to tap to manage anxiety, cravings. Tapping is like, it's the best thing. It helps with so many. So I don't know if you've signed up, sign up and get that. It's going to help you. Oh, Holly Seth, but well done. Stephen saying staying stopped is the hardest for me. And again, if you're doing it on your own without any additional outside information or support or professional input, you're going to just keep getting what you've always got. This is nothing to do with willpower, trying hard. It's not that. Those things do not work in getting sober. It's the system. If the system hasn't worked, get a new system. That's what I teach, the system. Rosie, I feel like I'm 41 and it is worth it. Rosie, you're worth it. Yeah. You know, I often say, with, and I have to say sometimes women more than men, is they will say, you know, I've spent this money on my dog and my car and my garden, but I've never spent it on myself. And I'm just going to reframe this for you. You guys have invested a lot of money in alcohol. You just need to redeploy it. That's what it is. And there is a payment plan, Jennifer, if you have a look. So I'm answering questions now, and we've got a few more minutes. Yeah, community groups, Sarah, are not enough to process the trauma. They can support you through the process, but you need to work with professionals. Question, Heather, a friend invited me to go with him to Napa this weekend. I live outside of San Francisco. I live in Tahoe. So I know what you're talking about. When I decline and say I've stopped drinking, it feels awkward. I even feel a little guilty about it, saying no. How do I deal with these feelings around social situations while newly sober? Good question, Heather. So first of all, other people will take your sobriety personally. So it does feel awkward and uncomfortable at first because we have quite established patterns of this is what we always do. So this is a massive pattern interrupt that you're doing. I remember the same thing. Like I was 27 and, you know, we would binge drink. I lived in Key West. And I remember being a few months sober and having people come and visit me. When you live in Florida, everyone visits you. And I remember feeling really awkward and uncomfortable and worried about like, oh my God, I'm not going to go out and party and they're going to have an awful time. And I discovered that the people that came to see me, like my stepbrother came, they were quite happy to not go out till 4 a.m. and get absolutely shit-faced. They were quite happy to go for a meal and they had a glass or 2 of wine and they didn't really care what I was doing. It was quite a revelation to me. So Heather, just accept that it will feel awkward at first because it's a massive lifestyle change. If people push back, it's because other people take our sobriety personally and it really bothers them. And it bothers them like if you say you're not drinking because obviously, well, if you're not drinking, then there must be an issue, and we drank together, then what does that say about my drinking? So make suggestions to do other things. The awkwardness will go very, very quickly, but it's a very normal part of the process. Does that make sense? Oh, Stephen. Jessica, no, the Sobriety Habit program that starts next week with the bonus, it's different from my book. The 5 pillars of sobriety are kind of the framework that everything gets filtered through, and that is explained in the book. But the Sobriety Habit program is really, and Carolyn, thank you, Carolyn, we'll put it in there. What we're doing is really kind of drilling down to creating these consistent habits that support your sobriety. I mean, some of it's in the book, but it's a lot of new material, best way to put it. Susan, I signed up for your new program. Yay. I will not be able to come live at the times I will be teaching. That's fine. It's all recorded. And Susan, if you have questions, you can submit them ahead. Like if you watch it and you're like, oh, I want a question or clarification, you can, there's a community space, put it in there. I think this program, I think you'll get just as much about watching the recordings. So I always think any program I do, to be honest, it's rare that everybody can make every single session live. If you have any questions or anything, comments, you can put them in the community group and I can address them on the call, and you'll be able to see the recording. Yes, there's a payment plan. So Angie's saying, I've always thought that loving ourselves was the answer to everything, but you say liking ourselves. Is that this as it's more attainable and a starting point? Kind of. Yes, loving yourself is the answer. And the starting point when you have an alcohol problem on day one, I find that most people don't really like themselves very much. So we want to like ourselves again. And very naturally, if I like myself, that means I love myself. And it's a process to get there. Jennifer, what is the family involvement in this process? I'm the youngest of 5 and only one of my siblings will talk to me. I've been left out of their lives pretty much from the time I was a child because of the age difference. Chip and I did a podcast actually last week, I think, on birth order, which is really worth listening to. And I will tell you, as a former psychotherapist, the answers are all in childhood. That's a big part of my work that I do with people one-to-one, is a lot of the stuff, the stuff that happened in childhood. That we are the way we are because of how our childhood shaped us. And there's no getting away from that. So Alison saying, we have drinks with dear friends out of state. We'll be seeing them soon. And after a month of not drinking, I'm concerned about awkwardness. How to plan for it. So it's Alison, it's what I've said. Claim the identity. Like, I'm not responsible for how other people feel. I'm not responsible. This is one of the things I teach. I'm giving you lots of free stuff here. This is my side of the street. My side of the street is my behavior and how I feel and how I show up in the world. This is your side of the street. I am not responsible for your side of the street. I'm not responsible for how you feel or your experience today. That's your responsibility. Stay on your side of the street. Claim the identity of someone that doesn't drink. How other people feel about that is their business, not yours. Carolyn, can you put the link for the program in again? So just to recap, it's 5 weeks, but if you join early, you get 6 weeks. The bonus week starts next week. It's a really, really fun, interesting workshop that we do together. How to start your sobriety revolution. You will leave that workshop really freaking clear on what matters to you and how to move towards it. We will cut through a lot of crap. Then we kick off with the program the week after, and it's every Thursday. It's going to be 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. in the UK. Calls are about 75 minutes in a meeting format, so we can all talk and get to know each other and see each other, and you can have your camera on or off, whatever feels comfortable for you. Week 1, how to build successful sobriety habits. We're going to look at how you sabotage yourself. We want to minimize any challenges you have right now and maximize your strengths. And we're going to shift your mindset to someone who doesn't drink. Week 2, we're going to create a strategy that works for you, because everybody's different. Everybody has different needs and different circumstances. So we're going to shape a strategy that works for you around temptation, triggers, and starting that 1% consistency. We're going to look at picking the right habits. So I'm going to drill down into more granular stuff about specifically what those habits look like to build a sobriety system, which is week 4, is when we talk more about the 5 pillars and how to apply that to your life. And week 5, we begin to really go into what emotional sobriety is. So today, if you're going to sign up, it's your last chance to get the bonus, the EFT workshop, which if you have ever suffered from anxiety or cravings or triggers, it's really, really helpful. We'll in the program, I'm sure we'll do a bit of tapping. I always do teach a little bit of that. So we'll do some tapping as well in the live program. Sign up before next Thursday so you can come along to that bonus workshop. Please tell people about this program if you feel it'll be helpful to you. And please do due diligence. Check me out. Make sure that you feel that I am qualified and experienced enough to deliver on what I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do. Please don't spend your money with people who are all marketing and have no qualifications or experience. You're just buying stuff that they have Googled. This is what I'm going to teach you is what I do and what I have done with thousands of clients for over 2 decades. First 3 people I may have already gone because people usually sign up, but I'll send you a t-shirt and I will announce the winner. The prize winner is going to get all the swag and the books. That will be early next week. There will be a homework question. Today's home. Oh, Elizabeth, thank you. I do think you're the best one out there. That's really nice. So I'm just looking at the rest of the questions and then I'm going to wrap it up with the last homework questions. And the last homework question is, why do I need to change now? And that will be in the Facebook group in just 1 minute. Thank you so much for everybody for joining me and coming along. I will say hi to Chip, Betsy. I will say hi to Chip. And thank you so much for being here. It's been super fun for me. I hope this was helpful. If you don't join, that's fine. Join something, listen to the podcast, read the book. And if you do join, I will be really excited to see you next week. Join by midnight. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.